It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a good one.
Definitely a different type of process.
Cut down or freeze up.
Jackson and they can do to what's the I hit by 10. Oh
Hey, welcome to Baseball 101. Today really has very little to do with Baseball 101. It has to do with some other things more important to me as we approach Christmas. It is coming up, right?
Yes.
9 days. Yep, 9. Ooh.
See, we have now. By the time this goes out, it won't be 9 days. So at home, you're like, it's not 9 days because you'll be closer. But I'll tell you right now, you're going to see something special today. So don't turn it just because we're not talking about baseball. We're talking about something much more important than baseball. Well, God. Is there anything more important than God? Jesus, God.
Nothing more important.
See, I trumped him right there.
Most important.
It really is. So I probably should introduce the people up here because right now you're like, I don't know any of them. If you've been around baseball for any length of time, at least you know Brett Graves. He was, the cheering section right here. That's why we brought him. No, great job. I enjoyed the enthusiasm. He does podcasts, Keep Climbing. If you have not watched that, that is out what day is it released? Every Monday. He starts the week on Monday. I end it on Friday. We kind of book in the week. The greatness in the middle is Brian French with all his talks, and Mitch is also on there. So make sure you check them all out. There's a lot of shows, a lot of things to watch, a lot of people to say a lot of words. Now in the middle, not so much baseball related, but
He was on the outside of the table.
I'm so
Baseball, come on, dude. 9 years.
You played 9 years?
Little League.
Oh, Little League. Okay.
When it got competitive, I stopped.
I played two years.
I'm telling you right now, they're not here for their baseball knowledge. I'm telling you. So this is Coach Radigan, Malach Radigan from House Central. He's the head football coach over there. Football. He was a lineman, so the hand-eye coordination, not
Shade.
what
No, when you graduate high school or you get done playing your sport, you get better at it. So I can catch. One-handers, I'm there.
So he thinks he's a receiver now.
Something.
Thank you. A typical baseball thing.
Catch me in freshman PE. That's all I'm
So
saying.
he's a PE teacher over at House Central, and then next to me is the legendary. Can I say legendary?
I do go by the legend.
The legend. See, when I first met him, he wasn't the legend. Now he's grown into that sort of
Obvious reasons, right? I mean,
he's
look at me.
unbelievable. This is Erik Arneson. He's the St. Louis director of FCA, correct?
That's it.
Now, I probably should tell you, FCA stands for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So if you're like, I don't even know what FCA is, to us, we know. You, not so much. We're here to teach. I'm here to teach. I don't know why they're here. Anyway, but Erik has been with FCA for 28 years.
28 years, yep.
We met long ago through my involvement with FCA, and all of us actually have an FCA bond, and that's one of the things I want to talk about is FCA and what it does and how it impacts lives. So if you know nothing about FCA, well, keep watching. We're going to help you with that, and then hopefully some other aspects. One of the biggest things I mentioned it a couple weeks ago on one of the podcasts was a struggle I've seen, and we'll get to you guys in a second, but with athletes being so attached to their identity with sports that they live and die with that, and then when sports is over, well, what do they have to live for? So through FCA, we've all spent a lot of time together. We started together. I was on staff with Erik, and then both of them were FCA leaders for Francis Howell back in the day, long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So just as far as FCA, for those that don't know, for Erik over here, do you want to talk about just like what's the core mission or what does FCA do?
Yeah, our mission is to lead every coach and athlete into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. 1954, a basketball coach, Don McClannon, he realized that he bought a razor. He was shaving, and he bought this razor because of a commercial that a coach, an athlete said, hey, why don't you give this razor a try? And so he's like, what if I utilize that influence that athletes have to sell everyday household common products? What if I utilize that for Jesus Christ? And so he had this idea, and then he traveled around the country, and then tied it back to baseball. He actually was able to get a meeting with Branch Rickey.
Yeah.
And Branch Rickey's like, I'll give you 5 minutes. 2 hours later, they sat in their office and they just talked. And Branch asked questions. What about this? What about that? And he's like, I'm going to support this. And he got a affluent family in Pittsburgh to give money to FCA. It started out as somewhat of an event ministry. They would have rallies and athletes would share their faith, and then they do camps. And then we realized we need more ongoing support. And that's when they started what we call our huddle ministry. And this is just student-led groups inside mainly high schools, but colleges and middle schools that are talking about faith and sport. And Brett and Malach and you somewhat with your, as a faculty overseer, were involved in this huddle ministry. And so our hope is that influential athletes like Malach, who, are a starting football player, influential, invites their teammates to come to this huddle meeting and hears the gospel, grows in their faith, and outreaches to their teammates. And so it's just a wonderful ministry. So we're 70 years around, St. Louis 60 years, and just to see what God is doing. Real fast, I'm a product of it. We were teasing before this. My dad was a college athlete. He went to the University of Arizona. He got a scholarship, showed up on campus, and a wrestler, national champion, said, "Hey, you want to come to FCA?" And he's like, "Well, of course, this is a stud wrestler. I'm coming." Yeah. And he went, and FCA gave him the ability to learn about God's word, but also how to compete as a Christian athlete. And so he got good. He got better. He had an awesome junior year. And then I'm all right, I'm NFL bound. And he got drafted for the St. Louis Football Cardinals and knew no one. He moved from Arizona to St. Louis. And who was there but our first FCA director, Walt Enoch, who was the chaplain of the football team.
He is a legend.
He is, he's the legend of FCA.
Alluding that he's not? Is that what
compared to Walt? We would
right. I would defer. We will defer to Walt as the legend. Well, just what was neat about Walt is Walt, ahead of his time, realized that here is a pro athlete. I don't want something from them. I want to serve them. And he didn't ask for things. He would pick us up at the airport. He would invite us over we had no family, so we'd be there at Thanksgiving. We'd be there at Christmas. His daughters would babysit. He just knew how to serve. And that meant so much to us. And so here's my dad, this 22-year-old guy knowing nothing and has some money now and needs to continue to grow and how to compete for Christ. And Walt was there for him. The FCA was there for him. They had chapel service, Bible studies, team Bible studies that he got to just, again, do that. And then what also it provided is a platform where he got to go around St. Louis and go to these huddles and speak at events and share his testimony. So what was cool is I grew up with all this and it meant so much. And I'm here today, a Christian and involved in FCA because of what my dad did.
And I hope FCA, that's to serve and not ask of people. And that's what I know both. Yeah. You want to talk about like your experiences with FCA, Francis, how long ago?
No, it was.
Why do you initially go?
Okay. Yeah. Let me get to that. That's a good one. So no, I was a pretty troubled dude. Just kind of grew up in a broken household, right? Like mom and dad were separated from, I think, a year and a half. And so I only knew a divorced home. But having older brothers, my mom was a single mom that worked multiple jobs. I was kind of like a lost soul, wandering soul of trying to find purpose, value. And with that, I get to high school, just so heavily influenced by athletics only. All that mattered to me was football at the time and working out. And at the time, our school district allowed you guys to be a teacher, to have a stipend role, to be at the weight room before, after school, and you ran it. And I love the weight room. And so literally it started off freshman year just working out. And sophomore year, getting a little bit stronger, Darin like, all right, you can work out. Coach Cissell will be like, you can work out with me now. And we would work out together. And one day he was like, hey, what are you doing Tuesday after football practice? And I was like, nothing, why? He's like, well, there's, I want to invite you to FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Like, you should come. And more of my background is my dad's from Palestine, and he would claim Islam. And so I'm thinking at this time he lived in Dubai. I'm like, there's no way he would fly over from Dubai, beat me right here, and like, there's no way I would do that. And sis, you were like, well, there's free pizza after football practice on Tuesday. So I was like, I'll see you next week at FCA. Yeah. And so literally, I went to FCA for the free pizza. That's not a joke. That's not like trying to get laughs. It always gets laughs, but I really went for the free pizza and be the class clown. And make people laugh, and eat free pizza, and that was it. And so when I first went, I'm there, and I show up, and I see these varsity I was a sophomore in varsity, should not have been on varsity. I mean, you're talking about like all this high level athleticism. I was an outside linebacker that had 8 tackles in 8 games. Wow. This is embarrassing. But I remember I went and I'm watching these junior and senior teammates that I looked up to and idolized on the football field in the weight room. I'm watching them at FCA and I'm like, what in the world, dude? And then they're talking about Jesus Christ. I was so embarrassed. I would wait till they would leave and I would just wait and everyone would be gone. And it's like, Sis was like, you leaving soon? I was like, hey, who's this Jesus? And if anybody knows Darin, he'd be like, well, who do you think he is? And I'm like, don't answer my question with a question. Like, tell me the answer, right? And so it literally started this sophomore year process for me of wrestling with Christianity, wrestling with who God is and what he wants to do with my life. And ultimately it would be multiple nights of me staying at Cissell's house staying late to ask questions or to learn more. And through that, the Lord definitely softened my heart. I went from living this party lifestyle, mistreating women, abusing drugs and alcohol, and finding my identity and all these other things aside of the Lord, to my heart being softened. And I started having conviction for how I was living, for the things I was doing. And then I remember that summer, you were like, hey, you should go to FCA Guys Weekend. Or I went to FCA Guys Weekend. You're like, you should go to this leadership conference that they put on. I'm like, well, how much is that? And there's so many details there that were pretty cool how the Lord worked out. But I ended up going to this camp and there was no special prayer. There was no like altar call. I was sitting in this bonfire, just like torn completely down about who I was and the life I was living. And it was that summer, 2007, when I gave my life to Christ. And it's been amazing. It's been the roller coaster since, but that was the monumental time in my life where God used Darin's influence as a coach in the weight room, because I never played baseball. I got cut every year. We all know that. I never played baseball. I had him in class, which was a whole nother story. Man, dating was rough. But as a guy I built a relationship with just in the weight room, and that influence literally changed my life, and God used that to lead me to Christ. So it was just kind of cool how that whole thing panned out.
And that's the competitive part of, like, as athletes, we all are competitive, and we all, even lifting. I mean,
okay, I knew you were going to bring it up just because your viewers are like, oh, he was strong before.
I don't know what he was referring to. I was just saying we would lift together.
Odd PR. I'm like, I just got 225 for 4. He's like, that's crazy, 5, and he would rack it. And I'm like, just every time, no matter what the lift, one more, and he would rack it, and he just stare at me.
Who's stronger now? Should we have
take him out?
All right. Is the weight room close?
No, it's close. The doctor said they had to wait 24 hours.
I was saying the doctors would have to be on call.
Yeah,
I think we're
awesome.
Dr. Hendricks, we're good. So you graduated in 2009, and then so he was a senior when you started with FCA.
Yeah,
that was my freshman. That was my senior quarterback. That was my senior year quarterback right there.
That's right.
That was when timeouts. For those that don't know, Howell was not good at football at this time.
Yeah.
Like, you're not talking about like, ooh, it's like Malach started as a sophomore. They were bad.
You were hurting.
I mean,
like, you have legs. You should play. I was like, okay. Like, it was
how football people look at now, like, oh, this is elite level. At the time,
hopefully they're going back down.
It was a sorry.
I know.
But it was a transition period in the growth and development of that program. And so you're a freshman playing and you're a senior. Coach Koch, who was another one that influenced you greatly, was trying to get the program moving, and you guys were part of that. But you want to talk about a little bit your FCA experience?
Yeah, honestly, I've been super thankful of Malach's story like that, because honestly, there's a lot of people my age. I am only one of them, but like, Malach influenced all of our class the same way he was talking about the people that he looked up to, the upperclassmen that were in that environment that, worked really hard in the weight room, gave a good tangible example of what that's supposed to look like, helped lead his team like out on the field, a tangible example of what that's supposed to look like. And then by the time he was a senior, at least, a very tangible example of like what it looked like to be a faithful Christian athlete pursuing all of those different things in their life. That, holy cow, that had such an impact on me, as a sophomore, getting to see that. And honestly, in all those different categories, like, I tell people all the time, my baseball journey I think was like really forged through like a football field and a football weight room. You know, I joke all the time right now about like our training facilities and whatever. And like, man, we didn't have none of this, you know, like I lifted with the football team and I threw long toss as far as I could across the field. And like, that was my baseball training, you know, like we hit in a cage, we did stuff too, but like not all the gadgets.
Formula right there.
Yeah, all the gadgets, you know. Well, I use that sometimes like as a crutch too, like with guys like, hey man, like I believe all of this is good. I wouldn't be doing any of it from a business standpoint if it wasn't good. But like also at the end of the day, like I had some success and I learned how to throw 95 like without any of this, right? So like if you're missing the point of like the focus and the detail and like the intention and the why behind like what you're doing, none of these gadgets matter. Can they help your process? Absolutely. But like the way you go out there and compete and execute and like can focus on a day-to-day basis, like that's ultimately like the foundation of any of this. And if you went and did this fancy program with all these tools and gadgets and things, and I went and did this, I mean, honestly, I felt the experience too, just like seeing like Dominican players, like they don't have anything. They come over here, they're used to throwing coconuts and working out with no shoes on, you know, and they come over and, you know what I'm saying? So whatever, back to the point. That like my like route through FCA, like I grew up in the church, but I don't think that I had a very good understanding of what it looked like to be a Christian athlete, you know, and like how my faith was supposed to, you know, exude through my athletics, you know, or exude through like my actions, you know, and I think one of the biggest things from that like time of my life that really resonates with me or that I can really pull from, because it was so long ago at this point. I'm just kidding.
It was.
Is that like, that was such a form of worship for me. And I think when I started viewing that through that lens, and it wasn't just like, this is who Brett is over on the field, and this is who Brett is when he's at FCA or at church, and this is who Brett is when he's at home or with his kids, is that like, no man, like this is what that's supposed to look like, be the core of your identity, you know, and then, you know, I say that, but then even there was so much more of that walk that I had to go through that like helped pull back my identity, you know, from being attached to baseball and like who I am as a person who like God's called me to be. But like those initial experiences there was like very, very much led by their class, because I was the sophomore as the senior was in there like leading that and those experiences on and off the field. There certainly was like other people than Malach just involved in that too. But it's very, very obvious to me that like at the time, like, Malach was the person that we were all looking at to say like, this is the person that like we wanted to try to emulate or be like, you know. So I'm very thankful for all of those personal experiences of his, because then what I hope that was that by the time I was a senior and some of those guys that got to see your Wes Coons and other people that we were around, you know, teammates of mine, that like that was the picture that got painted for us, or the standard that was kind of set. Again, you know, at school, on the field, and day to day, like in your life and at FCA. And that's like the legacy that we wanted to then leave behind and pass along too, you know, so I'm thankful for that.
Darin, I mean, that story I told about the founder, Brett is just talking influence. I mean, that's one of our biggest words is utilizing the influence and connection that athletes have to share Jesus. And so that's so cool that here you are as an example.
Humbling,
and then you helped him in his journey, even though a different sport. It's pretty awesome.
I've been a baseball player.
And that's,
Well, I'll tell you already, I said it already, that like, to be honest with you, that was all through my experience of football, and probably why I associate a lot of my athletic development, especially at earlier ages, like certainly was on a baseball field, but I actually think it's also because I was so much smaller, and like I had to train way harder, way more to be a good quarterback than I had to be a good baseball player, you know?
Good,
So like I had to spend way more time and thought and effort. And we had a bunch of like really good players in my class or the class below me or whatever by the time we got there too, that like, man, I always felt like I had to like, I was catching up, you know, like, or I was trying to like, you know, maybe in the baseball side of things, I felt like I was more of setting the pace, you know what I'm saying? So like to get to see that and have those experiences, like I feel like from a football and a faith standpoint and a leadership and a character standpoint, like all of that stuff to me was forged in a weight room or a football field, you know, and maybe got expressed on the baseball field.
Yeah. And for me, and it's just funny because you're talking about the influence there, and the influence I had from my roommate Kevin Joseph with the Giants, like, and which led to Ryan Hickerson, led to Mike Matheny, and then Mike Matheny led to FCA. Like, I think it's important to understand the influence that we have as an athlete is not just for us to use for athletic gains and for achievement. The influence you have outside of athletics is far more impactful eternally than anything you're going to do with a baseball, football, soccer. Like, and I think that's what I was taught by those guys, like at the initial part. And Mike Matheny, who brought me to Boys Weekend, one of the camps, by the way, Boys Weekends, one of the weekends. You guys still
We
do.
moved up. It's guys' weekend.
It's guys' weekends now. I'm sorry. It was boys. Things have grown. No, it's guys' weekend. I don't. Anyway,
They didn't want to be called boys.
I don't.
The
They should.
campers, they're like,
But
we're guys.
they are guys.
Yeah.
It's. I'm if I offended you,
Yeah, boys. Yeah,
I
no.
don't care. But
Fellas weekend.
We did think about dudes' weekend. That didn't go over well.
no, that probably wouldn't be the direction I would prairie on that one.
Yeah,
we'll get
yeah.
back to that.
Thank you.
Legend.
Yeah.
But the influence I was able to see as sponsoring and seeing you guys as leaders, because like when I talked to both of you guys about being leaders, like a huddle meeting at a high school, at least the way we did it, was you have huddle leaders that are responsible for, because teachers can't teach and lead, so you have student leaders. So they were student leaders, and over the years we would have, I don't know, 5 to 8, 6 to whatever. I mean, we had several, and I would talk to whoever was interested. And I remember both of you, when I asked, were like, "You want me to do what?"
Yeah, I was like, do you know who I am? Do you know the life I've lived? This is not good.
No, and but thank God that he knew who you
Oh,
were
for real. Yeah.
and was able to use you, because I think people, and it's the biggest thing with FCA that I tried to really do was, I don't care about your past. If God doesn't care about your past, I don't care about your past. And trying to find the people that wanted to grow and move forward instead of look back, because we all could look back at things we've done and be like, well, that's not impressive at all. And thank
Amen.
God that we don't have to do that. Like, that forgiveness and grace that God gives us is important. And to learn that through FCA, or at least, like, you grew up in the church, you didn't. Like, I didn't grow up in the church.
Yeah.
And I think God finds us wherever we are. We don't have to go and look for him, go to a church and check off boxes to be like, hey, I got to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, FCA is still trying to get influential athletes to have that
For sure.
impact. And that's, I mean,
But I think we consider FCA as an arm of the church. We hope the churches are growing and expanding because athletes are coming to Christ through FCA, and then they need a church. I mean, we always emphasize and encourage that. But there is sometimes where maybe an athlete like Malach, what he was, wouldn't set foot in a youth group, but he would with his teammates at FCA or with his influential coach.
yeah.
By the way, I love the pizza story, because I tell people it was attractive girls and pizza that keeps a lot of young guys to coming to FCA. I mean, God utilizes things and brings his truth through that.
Absolutely. And that's the pizza. And we used to have pizza eating competitions, which were always
I cast.
Well, Food Fun Fellowship.
So, yeah.
I literally wrote
like
that
cast.
down.
Food Fun Fellowship.
Yeah, I put food, fellowship, and fun. But yeah.
Yeah.
But that's, like you were saying, a lot of the athletes that I was connected to through teaching, through lifting weights, I coach basketball and softball, whatever. That connection piece was kind of the influence I had. If I would invite you to church, that wasn't going to work.
At the time, yeah, there's no way.
But to say, hey, I have some pizza in my house, let's go hang out, like, to come over and do that in a setting. I think that's the thing for me. FCA was always a safe space, or at least I tried to create a safe space for people that with no background of the church, or if you'd grown up in the church, that you can go and just have conversations and be honest about your thoughts and not be a judgment-free zone. Not to go with the Planet Fitness approach, but
alarm.
But yes, we'll go Ted Lasso. The be curious and understand that we all come from different backgrounds, whether you're Catholic or Baptist or whatever. Regardless of your background, it's the same God we're trying to worship, and how to do that. And that's some of the people you think about, go back to those meetings that you guys led. It's amazing to watch you guys lead meetings, and the growth that you guys had as leaders was always, I remember asking you in the gym at Howell if you want to be a leader, and that look on your face. And I'm like,
Do what?
I'm like, yeah, you're going to lead these meetings. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cool ministry. And if you don't know much about the ministry, there are a ton of resources. Like,
I was going to say too, just real quick, I don't want to brush past this because Rick Horton, obviously what he does with the Cardinals and broadcasting still, but obviously the track record he has of professional athlete in the MLB, he once shared at an event, he was talking about he could every Sunday, sit next to the same person at church and do the church thing, because let's not get it twisted. Like, God calls us to fellowship in ways, right? So he's like, yeah, sure. I could sit here with this person, but I could go play a pickup game of basketball with Brett. I could go work out with you, and there is this dynamic and this barrier breakdown of athletics that he would say, like, I now learn more about that dude in a game of pickup basketball than I have with this person I've been sitting next to in church my entire life.
Yeah.
And I remember when he talked about that, I was like, that is so good, because at the time, the little dweeb that I was, the little insecure punk I was, there's no way I would have gone to a church. But the first barrier breaking down was us working out together. And I'm like, this dude's cool. He's strong. He works out. He also coaches 3 sports. Oh my gosh, right? That was the cool part. But then that relationship got built. So many more walls were broken down because of FCA. And then next thing you know, I'm at church with you guys on Sunday, meeting your family, it was just so cool, because now you look back and it's like, man, I remember Rick said that at one of a big FCA event. And I was like, that is pretty impressive when you process sports naturally tear down this barrier of anything.
Yeah.
The dude you're playing baseball with professionally, like at the time, it's like, yeah, sure. I don't care if they were in the Dominican or where they're from. Like, you saw that. Or if you go on a mission trip and the one thing that's probably going to bring everybody together is playing soccer or playing a sport or playing catch. And it's just a natural barrier breaker of that. And I think it's kind of a cool way to look at that too.
Well, you see who someone is as soon as you start competing.
Yeah.
Like, some people play games for fun. I don't hang out with those people. But
there's a few of those in your family on game nights, and it's very frustrating. I'm just saying, you hang out with them. Part of your family.
Procreated them.
say that's on my wife's side.
That wasn't your genetics.
No,
The play for fun.
no, I don't understand the play for fun thing.
Yeah. 2 is one thing. Then
That's not.
Just saying.
I'm not going to play for fun. That's not a casual.
He's like, let's all just.
But like you were saying earlier, like, I didn't learn. Like, I would compartmentalize my faith.
Yeah.
Like, it was one of those things. It was.
Yep.
It was my roommate. It was Kevin Tomasini, a guy. And when I say names, you're like, who is that? Exactly. Like, you don't know who they are, but through sports,
you will remember forever.
They changed my life and taught me things that I have taught for 25 years in a classroom, or taught through FCA, or taught, like, the influence you can have in a conversation, the influence you can have just with and it was Kevin Tomasini. We're off, like, we were Bible study, and then the next day we get on the field and I'm cussing. He goes, what has changed from that side of the white line to this side? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you wouldn't say that word over there, but now that we're on the field, you would. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's.
Well, this is different, buddy.
I was going to say, but now we're competing. And it was like the identity piece of understanding who I was as a Christian didn't change whether I was competing or whether I was worshiping or reading that's who I was, then that's who I am all the time. There's not like, hey, when we play or compete, I'm less of a Christian than I was when I'm at Bible study. Like, that has to be who I am. And it's a tough, like, was that a struggle for you? Like, it was tough for me to compete at the intensity that I want to compete at, in a way that I think the biggest thing was I had an idea of, like, what a Christian athlete looked like that I didn't like, not to be dumb, but I was like, oh, you're a Christian, so you're going to be nice and soft. And I'm like, once I understood that that's not what it looks like. I mean, was that a struggle for you guys, or was it just?
For sure.
100%, especially as a new believer. So, like, I go to my junior season, fresh off the summer of HLC camp, Huddle Leadership Conference with FCA. And I'm like, okay, I'm in my football season, and I remember I'd be like, let's pray before the game, guys. I'm bold, right? I'm riding that spiritual high from camp and, like, getting my life to Christ. And then I'm in the middle of piles, like, doing the most foul things. Like,
you don't have to tell us what it is.
But it was bad. Language and, like, things that you're doing to players. I'm like, this is an awful representation. But I think as you grow in, because it's not like, oh, I met Jesus and now I'm this perfect human. You'll never be perfect, right? But, like, as you grow in maturity and faith, I think I learned what it looked like to worship through sport.
Yeah.
And that was a huge difference for me.
Yeah.
As sports have evolved, I think a lot of sports, especially football, they use this, like, barbarian gladiator mindset to like motivate. It's like, well, you know, like, let me demean you, let me cuss at you, let me fire you up. And I even, like my dad, I mentioned him, he even struggled with these. Like, my job is to kill him, or, you know, like to use these harsh words.
Like, I mean, he was a middle linebacker.
Yeah, right.
Your dad was a little scary. I'm not gonna lie to you.
He was, yeah. Imagine growing up with a middle linebacker.
And being a swimmer.
And then I was a swimmer, right?
I wasn't gonna bring that up.
I had to. I mean,
But yes.
You know, we're going to get to that later, but my dad was a great sport parent, and he was like, oh, okay, swimming. And he encouraged me in it, even though, I mean, to my face, to my face.
No,
To my face. It was a speedo. Yeah. We had the worst uniform in all of sport.
No doubt.
The speedo. Maybe
Absolutely.
the wrestling singlet and then the speedo.
if you're built right, the wrestling singlet's kind of cool.
Malach would wear a wrestling singlet to camp.
He was a wrestler.
People,
Yeah, from FCA camp, right?
At boys' week. See, now it sounds weird.
The boys' weekend, yeah. Dudes' weekend. Back to dudes.
Boys' weekend? Yeah, my kid's not going to that church.
All right, should I? So, yes, so the
bring it back
barbarian
into the
mindset.
barbarian.
So now I think, and these guys as coaches and you as well could talk that I think now like Tony Dungy's and others have really realized that it isn't about motivating through fear and anger.
Yeah.
It's love and you mess up. I'm not going to chew you out because you don't mean to mess up. And so psychology but I gotta think FCA has been on the supportive realm of just this change in coaching.
Well, I mean, I go back to John Wooden.
Yeah.
He
Was the first.
He was to me the greatest coach of all time, John Wooden. And I mean, if you haven't read his books, read it. I mean, we did the Pyramid of Success not too long ago, but so sorry, not to get to that's Christian athlete parts. Like, how hard was it for you?
Yeah, honestly, when I tell people about my story, and I look back on it now, I can see, you know, even in the weeds, in the moments, it all feels very like twisty, turny, painful, joyful, like all these different emotions. And, you know, my personal experience, like through baseball, there was a lot of just kind of like, how does that make sense? You know, like, and when I look at it now and I like zoom out far enough, I can be like, holy smokes, like that was so very obvious, like God at work in my life, you know, like so many like unknowns maybe of like, well, you know, from like, cause my Rule 5 experience that I've shared with you, you know, I go into a major clubhouse for the first time and typically in a major league clubhouse, like everybody works from like the inside out of it. Okay. So like if there's ever any extra lockers, they're always on the end. Okay. Rookie comes in, throws his stuff and you're on the end in the corner in the whatever. There was one open locker and it was right in the middle. And the guy right next to me was Adam Conley, who was the most influential character in my like faith, like in professional baseball. And, you know, reel it back a little bit, you know, like a couple months before that, when I got selected in that Rule 5 base and I made it to the major leagues, I'm a big deer hunter. So like I was in the middle of the woods with a deer stand on my back in a cornfield. Okay. And I get a phone call from the GM of the Miami Marlins telling me that they selected me. Obviously, like I wasn't expecting it. To me, it was out of nowhere. And like, I knew that thing was going on that day, but like I had been injured that year and, you know, I'd had some success at the beginning of the year, but it was like totally off my radar. And to be honest with you, through that experience, maybe back up 3 months even before that, I was in like such a dark place of my life, like in Phoenix, injured. You know, at the time, my wife like wasn't traveling with me either. So I was like totally out of my support system, totally away from the people that I knew, because the guys that I had developed relationships with, like they were still like off and playing. So like I'm in a 2-bedroom apartment with another guy who's also injured that we have some type of relationship, but like not whatever. It was definitely just like for convenience sake that we had like a apartment together. And great guy and a teammate, and I like him and still keep up with him, you know. But man, I just remember being in that room feeling so like lost, like God, if this is what like you want me to do in my life, like what am I doing? You know, like what am I doing? You know, so then like, holy cow, I'm hurt for that whole second half. I get selected, wasn't thinking anything about it. I go to the clubhouse and like the one locker that's open for me is right next to the person who I needed to be next to most. And God took me and plucked me out of that scenario and put me into that, you know. And from professional baseball experience wise too, like High school, I think I had like good support system. Like college, we still had like some for sure, but it's different dynamic, you know. But in professional baseball, holy cow, Wild West. I mean, just like whatever I wanted to go do, I could go do it, you know.
Yeah.
And my you know, fiance slash like wife, obviously, like wasn't there with me at the time. I was around entirely new people that I mean, I could have developed my own like new character of whoever I wanted Brett Graves to be right in front of all them people, you know. So like if I didn't have this core identity of like who I was through Jesus Christ, like I see so many people go to that and just like go crazy, you know? But even through all of that, like I'm still wrestling as a young man aspiring like, you know, elite success in like a very tough industry. And I'm in these clubhouses that are extremely toxic and I can see it. And, you know, I'm wrestling with like how much of it I get sucked into or don't get sucked into. And, you know, I do feel like in general, like I look back on that and I'm thankful for some of the decisions that I made and whatever, not suggesting that I like went off the rails,
Yeah.
you know, but still like that picture that gets painted for you as what it looks like to be a faithful husband, father, you know, player, friend, teammate, like in that environment. Like I didn't have any of that. You know, I had it good in high school. I had it pretty good in college. But then like when I went off on that, I'm totally on an island, totally on myself in a very like, you know, sinful world, you know. And holy smokes, through that whole like experience for me is very like at the time I was kind of like, what's going on? Like this is crazy. Like sweet though, right? I'm excited. But then I realize now, you know, and like through those experiences, man, I can remember standing out on the Washington Nationals field for a batting practice that probably took 50 minutes, you know, and Adam Conley and I stood there and talked about, you know, basically like what that looks like played out in professional baseball and as a teammate and as a husband and as a father and some of the challenges and he shared some of me with all of his experiences, you know, and man, like that experience like was the last piece of that. And I'm so thankful for it these days. I'm so thankful for it these days because ultimately what I ended up going through after that, like it's very obvious to me now that God was preparing me, you know, for all of that. But like baseball completely came off the pedestal for me on that. And it was this whole like process, you know, because like through that process, of like playing in the major leagues and I, you know, 15-year-old Barrett got to kind of check that off the bucket list, if you will, you know, but then my experience being so like, you know, faith driven, you know, that like that experience when I look back on it for me is so very obvious that like God was preparing me, you know, and I'm so thankful for those experiences that he provided for me because then, you know, 2 or 3 years later when my family needed me to walk away from the game of baseball, I did it without like a care in the world, you know, and I was like, you know, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, you know, so, yeah, I mean, I look back on that like just super thankful, and it's very obvious to me now that it was like God's hand in all of that. That you know was leading me through that.
And it's just tough, and in the middle of it, you have your own individual goals, desires, dreams, and you're trying to get to it. I mean, I got hurt before I got to, but the thing that all these stories, it just reminds me, and for you guys that you're trying to figure out colleges, you're trying to figure out where to go, or you didn't get the scholarship to the school you think. Where God's putting you, he's putting you because there's people there that you need to be connected to. Like I was not supposed to be drafted by the Giants. I thought I wouldn't have been. I got hurt, ended up with the Giants, which then ended up with my roommate and all those connections. And it's just tough in the moment to be able to see that. It's later on to be able to look back and realize though that situation led me to those people, which then changed my life. And that's the part that to be disappointed that you don't get the scholarship that you think, or you're not going where you think you need to go. Just understand where God's putting you is better than where you would go yourself, because where God's putting you is where you need to be.
Amen. I want to share this. I literally just texted this morning at 11:15, a player that we have going through an injury at a bad time, you know, while he's a free agent. Okay. I sent him this and this helped me a ton. So I wanted to share it. I said, God's got a plan, brother. I know you know that, and everything's probably spinning right now as you process this. But Romans 8:28 helped me get through a ton of uncertainty in my life, definitely through that whole experience I just shared.
Yeah.
Now, you're so much more than what you can do with a baseball in your hands, and never forget that. Romans 8:28 says, and we know for those who, sorry, I lost my spot. And we know for those who love God, all things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose.
Yeah.
You know, that God's always working for the good of those who love him, that are seeking his will and trying to, play that out in their life, and not just so consumed by with what Brett, with what my flesh wants in this moment. But
Yeah.
It's really athletics, life, etc. I mean, I think hardships is the best teacher.
Absolutely.
And so removing of things that I mean, we all have dreams, direction, how we think our life should go. All of us as young people in the world of sports see the professional, and then an injury hits, or you don't get what you want, and then if you do allow God to work, which Brett did, man, I mean, look where he is now. Look how God refined him and is working together for his good. And so then you're almost like, okay, thank you for that hardship. Thank you for that injury that you.
I mean, and
I feel
that's
so thankful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny because the first verse I memorized when I got to spring training. So I got hurt, for those that don't know, and basically into my career. But I went, and Ecclesiastes 7:14. I remember reading it, and I'm like, this. I don't even know why this verse is important to me, but I read it and I memorized it. For when times are good, be happy. I'm like, well, that sounds pretty common sense here, but so many times in athletics, you achieve things and you don't even celebrate it. It's just the next thing. It's the next thing to enjoy it. But when times are good, be happy. What consider when times are bad, God has made one as well as the other, so no man will know about his future. Like when times are good, it's celebrate them. But when something goes wrong, I understand God's preparing you for something in the future that we don't know. We don't understand what's coming, but we're going to have good days, we're going to have bad days. And in the bad days, in those trials and the difficulties, God's preparing something in the future that is special. It's just hard to get there. And it's getting through that darkness and whatever injury we have, like getting through it. I mean, it sucks. I mean, it's not like I'm signing up for, hey, let's sign up for some trials and tribulations, but it's part of being human.
Yeah, I think like when you were talking in that time, you had no idea what the Lord was doing, but you can look back and be like, he was preparing me for this. Or you talk about the hardship or even the good things that are happening. We're like, oh yeah, I performed like this in college, high school, college, whatever. That helped me get to where I'm at. Literally, like everyone likes to look at David and Goliath as like this underdog story. But the coolest part is like when that whole scenario is on, if you go through 1 Samuel, you'll read that. But in 1 Samuel 17, David's basically like, oh, I'll fight this dude. Are you kidding me? And then King Saul's like, you're nothing but a youth. There's no way you can do this. And he literally just kind of does like the mic drop. He's like, your servant used to keep sheep for his father. And when the lion came or a bear, I would, or one of those things took a lamb from the flock, I went after him and struck them and delivered them out of his mouth. If he rose again at me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Your servant struck down both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them. So this little boy is saying, like, y'all are scared of this man? I kill lions and bears for my father's sheep. I'll strike them dead, and then God will deliver me if not. And it's just like that moment. It's not like this little boy David was like, throw me out there. He had been prepared to fight Goliath.
Yeah.
And not to get too biblical with it, but it's like David was actually at the advantage in the fight because Goliath he was like close hand combat, massive man. David's like, no, I'm going to stay back here. I'm going to run to this line. I'm going to fling a rock at you and knock him dead, right? And it's just like, what a moment. But I think I just hear that so much of like this injury, dude, I praise God for your injury because if not, where would I have been as a sophomore looking, and God can work more than just you, right? But I'm just saying like in that ended your career. You became a teacher. Like your former teammate led you to FCA. Like, I don't know, like that stuff to me is just like cool to reflect and be gracious for, because it's like, man, without that happening to you, my son's got your middle name. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that stuff is powerful because I'm getting emotional. Like that stuff happened. And because of that, like, I got saved. My married, like my wife, all that
There's
stuff.
so many parts of that it's, as you get older, to look back and see how God worked.
Yeah.
The tough part is in the difficulties and the trials to trust that God's working, because we can't see it until and sometimes we're not going to know ever. I'm fortunate that the injury that happened, I can look back and go, without that, I don't meet my wife. I don't know you guys. I don't know any of it. I'm not a teacher. Anyone that's ever heard my voice here, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Like
Amy's your better half, so you better praise the Lord for that injury.
that's no doubt
Best
about
thing
that.
ever.
Met at
Well,
FCA camp.
It also sounds like that when you go through that low point, that God brought people with you alongside
Absolutely.
Christian brothers
Amen.
who helped you with perspective. Like
Yeah.
your story right here, there's going to be a young athlete that you've already told that probably hundreds of times that are go, Coach Cissell went through that. He's turned out well.
Yeah.
He met his wife. He's involved in teaching and coaching
It's
FCA.
all tear ankles, you know.
Don't sign up for that program.
Well, when you're in the moment too, like all of those things that even that experience I was just sharing,
Yeah.
you know, like they feel so earth shattering. That's why I included that in my text to that person, because I was like, I totally can understand how you're
Yes.
probably just like world is spinning right now. You have no idea what's going on, what direction this is going to lead you down or whatever. And man, it takes such like a deeply rooted foundational belief that like I'm okay. Like God's got me.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm okay. And the acceptance of just like I'll do whatever God asks me to do. You know, I'll do whatever. And to be honest with you, like you know, we were reading through Ecclesiastes 2 and just like all the vanity of the world and you know all of some of those details like just this past month or two like at church and you know, especially these days with like so much business stuff going on. We just moved into a new house, you know, like, I mean, you could even like draw your correlations between like, you know, promotions or major leagues or
Yeah.
like whatever kind of status, like within sports that you're seeking, you know, you're that it's all vanity, that it all just like really
It's
doesn't
all-
matter,
yeah.
you know, and ultimately who it matters to is like my flesh. You know, that's what it was always about, was like my pride and ego. And I, you know, when I tell my story to people and I talk about it, you know, like, and while I don't think that this is wrong, right? Like God put baseball in my life on purpose and he put sports in my life
Yes,
on purpose
absolutely.
and intentionally. Okay. But 23-year-old Brett would have told you that God put me on this earth to play baseball. And while I don't think that that's not true, you know, that's not the ultimate reason God put me on this earth. God put me on this earth to be faithful and obedient and to give him the glory. And I think if we keep that like the first and foremost thing that we do, and that baseball obviously fits into that, but fits into that mold about how I can be
Yeah.
faithful, obedient, and give God the glory, that like, then that kind of helps like frame your mind on how I view all of those things with it, you know? And like, if
Yeah.
it wasn't baseball and now it's business, cool. If now it's like, you know, being a father, then cool, you know, like, and not tying all those things up into like ultimately what I'm here to do.
And I think too, like you alluded to it earlier, when you became a worshiper, like baseball was a form of worship for you. Like I think the same thing was hard, not hard, but you know, you get done playing. For me, I played only football
Yeah.
for 9 years, and I get done, and it's like, well, now what? I think because I was discipled, because I had men pouring in my life and teaching what identity in Christ looks like, I was like, okay, like, yeah, it's done. But then I fell in love with coaching. And then now it's like, okay, I'm coaching. As an assistant coach, going from assistant to a head coach, I think was probably one of the biggest culture shocks for me in my faith in Jesus. But it's like, even in that, and my wife is such a beautiful reminder of this, like, how am I worshiping the Lord through coaching a high school football public school
Yeah.
program? Like,
Amen.
and even in that though, it's like, it doesn't matter where. Like I could say I got to play,
No.
you know, first NAIA and then Division II football. I could say that that's cool, but it's like in that moment, I got to use that as a platform to worship him or worship myself. And we're gonna fail, right? But like always trying to like repent and go back to the cross. But in that, it's as a teacher,
No.
how am I using that platform to worship the name of the Lord? Like as a husband, as a father, which are the two hardest ministries in my life, like
Amen.
to make sure I'm not giving them my leftovers, not giving them the lesser of me. Like, how am I worshiping and honoring God with that? And I just think that's a cool piece of the identity. It's like,
Yeah.
we are worshipers. And you weren't put on this
No matter
planet
what
to
you
be a baseball player.
Yeah,
You were
yeah.
put on this planet to be a worshiper
Yeah.
and like to, like you said,
Yeah.
give God glory. And I think it's like, if I picked you up and now it's business ownership, it's all
Yeah.
these things. But if I picked you up and said, hey, you're actually going to start washing cars, it's
Yep.
like you are called to worship the Lord
Yep.
and how you wash cars.
Yep.
You are called to, and it doesn't matter what that.
Yep.
And I'm saying this because I need it myself.
Sure,
Going
sure,
from
sure.
We went 2-8
Amen.
this year.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm sitting here telling myself, like, your identity is 2-8. Like, you are trash. You're awful.
Mhm.
Someone else should be in this job. But it's like, and again, my wife is such a sweet reminder of like, yeah, but what about like the stories from this year of like
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
God used
Yeah.
that platform? And it's like, man, it don't matter where we're at. Like,
Mhm.
and so that part's cool too. To like when you think of identity,
Yeah.
no
Cissell,
matter where.
You talk about identity and in this conversation with you guys kind of on the elite high profile sports, and injury or just your abilities went downhill, maybe you got older. Well, what about, do you guys find as coaches that is there more of the I think I'm better than I actually am? So is there like my identity's in my sport, but I really don't have the acumen, the skill, to go to that next level? Because we in FCA quote like the NCAA, where it's like 4 to 6% of varsity athletes go on to play college. Super small. And then what is it? Professional, right? If college, it's 1%. So how do you like take out that? What do you think? Take out the identity when you're really, it's not going to be your future.
Yeah.
I think the tough part, and I think I'm seeing it more now, is kids specializing early on. That they're told they're special at 6-7U. Go play on this club team. Go play and specialize, and you're going to play professionally. And what I've seen in the last 5 years is kids get in high school, and when they realize they're not special, that they don't have the skills or they didn't develop the way someone at 7U told them they were going to, I'm seeing a lot of kids really struggling with depression and anxiety and really struggling with who they are as a person. And I think it's been very sad for me to see, because I'm like, you're so much more than just an athlete. You're more than a baseball, more than volleyball, and it's not one sport. I've seen it, this increase of the expectation they come in, I'm going to be D1, I'm going to get drafted, I'm going to be, and I'm going, that it's, when I ask you who you are and you're like, well, I am a baseball player, I'm going to play professionally. To me, that's that's a red flag to me of like, if you're basing it all on that, what happens when you don't? And I think,
or when it's over,
it's going to end. Like my career ended at 24, 25. Yours was later. Yours
still going. Probably.
It's still, but I think that is a struggle, and where FCA can help so many kids. And that's what I try to do with you guys. Be like, hey, it's not about sport. Like I love you. I'm serving you not because of what you can give me or because you're the greatest athlete. Because if you were at FCA in our house, a lot of them weren't athletes. Like they weren't I don't know what's going on.
Hey, first time doing a podcast?
That's okay. We'll just.
Is that your computer?
I have no idea what's talking over here, but it's freaking me out. So we'll just.
I think you called someone on accident. Did you press it?
Okay. Hey, just ignore all that.
Is that me?
I don't know what's.
Is it me?
We're good now.
Watch.
Wow. We have figured it out. God's calling. Holy cow.
Well, hey, let me tell you what that makes me think of.
Okay, that's good.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
But I have.
Was he a relief pitcher?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Throw him in, but Graves take over. Here's the ball.
I would love your guys' input on this, honestly, too, and like pour into my own life and what's going on in my own life. That I think about my own 6-year-old right now. You're bringing up like environments like that, and parents seeking opportunities for the kids. I think all that's great, but something that I really wrestle with because of my sports journey, and I know that how God unfolded all of that for me. That certainly at different stages in my life, especially when we first met, I would have been the person that said, "Hey, how's it going? My name's Brett. I'm a baseball player.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you." Okay. And God had to rip that from my identity over a slow process. Thankfully, he didn't do it right away in a knee-jerk reaction, because I would have folded and
it's more painful that way.
Right? Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah. So it was this slow evolution of probably a 6-year journey, where that all happened for me, and kind of ebbed and flows in different ways. And I can obviously see, like I said, now how baseball, what it was leading me to, did that ultimately into what I'm doing now. But I think about my son, I think about all my kids, and I tell people all the time, sometimes I joke and I say I'd much rather him play golf than baseball, because then we can both have fun.
Yeah. Good point.
Because I'll be needing to interject my opinions if it's baseball, right? If it's golf, I don't know anything about golf. I have a golf facility, but I just whack the ball around.
Yeah.
But I think about baseball, and if he comes to me and says, "Dad, I want to play baseball," I don't want to push any of that on him. I think a lot of us do, a lot of parents with at least enough wisdom, especially if you've been around certain games, right? The reason I feel that way is because I don't necessarily want to put my life on him the way that I had to go through and experience it, right? I don't want him to have to go through that. I want him to learn that and like learn that his identity is through Christ at an early age, and not have to go through all of that stuff to learn and experience that. But what I wrestle with these days is like, well, like how much of it, how much of it should I allow him to experience and fail at on his own and trust that God's will in his life, is going, obviously that's going to unfold, and how much of that, like, and should I try to influence, should I not try to influence, should I let, his coaches or his environment or his circumstances or his leaders that's around him, like, can influence that? Because I also don't want to create this environment where it's like all restrictive and, it's too like suffocating.
Brett, so I'm like your son. I'm the son of a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And so my dad, 9 years, I mean, a successful NFL career. And it was funny. I'd meet people and they'd say, "Oh, your dad is Mark Arneson." And then I'd be older and they'd be like, "What happened to you?" Like
mosquito picture.
Yeah, right. And I'd always blame my mom. I go, my mom was short. My mom was short. I'm blaming my mom. And, but here, so yeah, levity just for a second. But, my dad learned, and maybe it was FCA, it was just, he learned that Jesus Christ is first and foremost, and his identity is in Jesus. And the more he grew and pursued God, that became his interest in others. So I remember, like, even sometimes people would come up to my dad and ask him questions, and he would always tie it back to Jesus. And I'm like, "Dad, it wasn't Vietnam. You could talk about your football. Like, people want to hear about your football. Like it's not like it's a neat experience." But he just so loved Jesus. And I'd say for you, just all about your priority of your faith, and then you'll know what to do for your son. Because he honestly, Malach jokes, but my dad was proud of me. I'd be there getting on the block, and I'd always have to look up, and there's my dad, and his smile and his thumbs up, it was like just affirming. And it wasn't like disappointing because, "Oh man, you got a Speedo and you're swimming." No. I went to counseling for it. No, I'm just kidding.
Still in counseling.
I love counseling too. I'm in counseling. No, but he was proud of me, and I think that. And then when I joined FCA, I wasn't a pro athlete. I joined FCA. I almost felt like my dad wanted to be me. He wanted to be an FCA.
Yeah.
I'd go out to places and people would ask me about FCA, and I'd be like, "Yeah, that's what I do." And then Dad would take over because Jesus was everything. So I think for you, if you could just, any parent who's a Christ follower and they want to be a good sport parent, really care about the right things first. Because like today, you see, I mean, my pastor and I met. Church and sports, church is losing, right?
Yeah.
Who isn't competing or has to compete on Sunday now?
Yeah.
They're losing. And so if you can show your priority. Now, I think I was the worst sports parent because my kids were more academic. They wrestle and they didn't have the eye of the tiger, and I put a lot of pressure. And I think that's the worst thing ever. And so I really, twinge of like, man, I wasn't as good as my dad because he put no pressure, nothing but support, and he allowed me to be me. And if that's what parents could do, and don't forget church and FCA, and I was with a sport parent, a friend of mine. I'm counseling him. I'm a hunter too.
Yeah.
I got to hear more about your deer later, but we're going duck hunting on Saturday, and I'm like, "Tim, you got to go to church. You're not going to church with your kids." And he's like, "Yeah, but they got baseball. They got baseball." Right. And I go, "Bro, well then do FCA." I go, "We got a club sport model where you can have a chapel service. You can have a Bible study as a parent. Like, do that then. Like, just show that's important. Find and be creative, because I don't think we're going to beat the Sunday competition in the club sport world. I don't think we're going to overtake that culture, but within that culture, can we influence it?"
And I think there is it is difficult, and there is no one guidebook to get this done. Like raising your kids through sports and how to do it and how to balance it. To me, what I always try to do is big picture and step back and be like, look, in 10 years, does this matter? Like, my son struck out 3 times a day. Does this really matter? And I think so many times parents driving kids home from games are being critical. And I've said on here before, you can teach your kid much more about love and the failure than you can the success. Because if a kid has success and you celebrate it, you should.
Yeah.
But then the kid learns every time I have to do well to be celebrated.
Yeah.
But when a kid fails and you celebrate who he is and that he's enough, that's where that kid learns what love looks like. And that's the same lesson that he's going to need or she's going to need when they're married, when they're parents, when they're teachers, when they're whatever, is you're enough to be loved regardless of performance. And that was something I struggled with because it was always the only way that I felt like I got acceptance was I have to play football, basketball, baseball, do well.
Yeah.
If I did well, I get a snow cone. If I don't do well, no snow cone for me. And that's not happy for anyone. But that was I don't think parents understand. And if you're like, I don't think they understand the lessons that you're teaching by your response to a game.
Yep. Well,
Like
my own experience, like from that, like I said earlier, like I don't necessarily wish that upon my kid because I hope that I can teach him in a better way than the way I had to like struggle to maybe learn some of those things. And what I've boiled it down to as a young parent, I've got so much more to learn, is that like ultimately all I really want him to get out of sports is like work ethic and accountability. So like the last thing I say to him when we get out of the truck when we're going to baseball practice is like, hey buddy, let's work hard for the Lord today. Okay. And that's if I asked him when we were going like, hey, what are we going to do today? He's going to say we're going to work hard for the Lord. And that's like one thing I want. But I also use it as a accountability conversation when he gets in after I'm like watching him maybe not work hard or joking around too much with his friends. Like, hey buddy, I don't know that we were working hard for the Lord today. Like then this is what I saw, and that's not listening to your coach or like whatever like conversations need to come up. But like that to me is probably, at least like as it sits right now today, like at 6U, like baseball, bless you.
I'm over here.
you okay? You getting choked on?
Good. Yeah.
As a 6U baseball player, like if I want him to pull anything like if he never played baseball again and he's going to remember a 6U baseball experience, like what did he try to like learn and pull from that? My hope is that it's just some type of, work ethic and accountability.
And that's hopefully they're enjoying the game.
Yeah.
And that was always, to me, the boundary I always set was if my son's having fun, he'll keep working, he'll keep playing. It's when it's no longer fun that they're going to stop playing.
Oh yeah, I live that to a T. No doubt.
It's just so hard because in the midst of it, we all are competitive. We all want our kid to do well. We want our teams to win. And there have been times that I overreacted to youth events.
You're that guy.
No. Well, and there were moments. But I tried to remind myself quickly, like, hey, this other coach over here, it's bigger than this. And how can I love that coach? How can I love this umpire? How can I show love? Because if I'm, like I was saying, compartmentalize, if I am a Christian, then I should be shown it in this adversity. This umpire that's made 4 bad calls, I don't think he's out to get me. Although he may be if I keep yelling at him. So not that any umpire would ever do that, but it's easy to say certain things like any of this. Like in theory, it's great, but in the moment, you really have to have accountability, and hopefully you surround yourself with other people that are coaching the same way. And that's where FCA, to me, always was a great support of, if I was messing up, from Mark Sigma to Spiker to whoever, like guys that were around would remind, are you okay over here?
No, thanks for water.
Yes, I'm sorry. Water. But this is a challenge. It's not an easy thing. Oh, he's good.
Tell them about your Bible study, because you called it a kind of a unique name.
Well, yeah, I mean, so it was a bunch of college athletes. I know it was athletes from SLU. It was athletes from all over professionally. And we used to get together once a week for accountability and learning the Bible, because a lot of us had no clue, like not a clue. And so there's a verse in there about, in order to gain your life, you must lose it. So we end up calling ourselves the losers affectionately. But those guys have gone on to, several are pastors now, several are leading churches, but it's easy to look back now and go, wow, that was a foundation for a lot of our spiritual lives. And it was all through sports. It was all through FCA. And so we could talk about FCA and talk about this stuff
Yeah, man, this is good.
forever. And I wish we had like 8 hours to do it, but some of you probably stopped watching already, but that's okay. If you're still watching, hey, thank you.
Do we, the STA website?
Yeah, yes.
www.stlfca.org. We'd love people, especially if this stuff resonates, or I like what you guys were sharing, and which was impactful for me, the student-led huddles in your campuses. I mean, we're in, I'd say 75% of the schools have us, 173 campuses all over. I got Malach State all over the greater
what he
St.
was saying is,
all over the greater St. Louis. And we'd love for you guys to.
and that's what, there's middle schools, there's high schools. There's an app now. You want to talk about the app a little bit? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, well, you just go on FCA.org. You can see a resources app. We have a St. Louis FCA app on the STL. And we have Bibles. We're one of the largest distributors, other than the Gideons, of Bibles. And we have a coach's Bible. We have an athlete Bible. And what it's the Holy Bible, but then it's also devotions or testimonies of athletes talking about their faith that they can look up to, things of that nature that appeal to the athlete. And you guys all have, I know, have those Bibles.
And that's what FCA to me was the first time I felt understood. Like there was like-minded people that were highly competitive, highly successful, that also want to pursue a relationship with Christ. And that was the first ministry that I'd ever been part of, because I would go to church and be like, I don't connect in this way. But FCA was the first time that I felt understood. Like if I was like, man, I want to rip your head off. And they're like, oh, me too. I'm like, wait, that's a good thing.
That's Malach's story, the one-on-one with Rick Horton.
Yeah.
You know, being able to, you identify and connect.
And that's, FCA is a wonderful ministry, and there's other ones out there, but FCA has huge impact on my life, obviously all of our lives. And if you need more information, obviously go to the website. Always looking for volunteers for events. You want to give money,
we love people giving money. I was going to say we love money.
Malach Radigan.
At
Malach Radigan on YBMcast.
all ministry, if you like to support. But if you're interested in FCA, especially if you're an athlete out there that has never been connected with FCA, reach out to, FCA.
We'll put the link.
Link.
We'll link it. We'll link it.
Find me on social media. We'll track you down. You're on social media?
Sure.
Don't.
At E. Arneson. At E. Arneson.
Couple accounts.
X.
Been blocked.
Is it X or Twitter? I don't know.
I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so like I will always say at the end of the subscribe button really helps this ministry, which is Youth Baseball Midwest, but it serves a lot of other people and a lot of other things. So push that subscribe thing. The like button would be wonderful, just because it makes me feel better myself. I told you I'm performance based, and I feel like if you don't push like,
I have likes.
I have likes. Look, someone watched my show, so if you want me to have a snow cone I need a like.
Has that.
So do that. But
Brian,
if you know someone that would benefit from FCA, from this conversation, make sure you share it with them. I mean, that's what this is. We're trying to get as much information out to you guys to help you in whatever way, whether it's baseball, whether it's your faith, anything. This is a very comprehensive youth podcast situation that Brian would say. Anyway, appreciate you watching. Thank you guys so much for spending time talking a little bit. And it is fun. It is it's almost surreal. Like I was sitting here earlier, I'm like, what are we doing? Like this was.
Yeah. I can't believe you have a podcast. It's so awesome.
It's weird.
Do you roll credits?
No, we can't. I don't. God works. I don't even like talking to people. Maybe that's why I do a podcast.
I know.
Talking to cameras is way easier than talking to people.
Really?
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, you did it. This was good.
We're gonna keep doing this for a while, so we're gonna get out of here.
I can change.
Hope you guys have a great holidays, Christmas,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas from all of us that are sitting here apparently. But have a great day, and I will see you soon. Thank you.